I've always believed that some people come into your life and quietly take root in your heart before you even realize it. That was Jake. We met in college, both a little lost, figuring things out. He had this wild, effortless charm, the kind that made everyone lean in a little closer when he spoke. And me? I was just the guy who always showed up, always listened, always laughed at his dumb jokes. Somewhere along the line, I started feeling more than friendship. But I never said anything. Not once. 4 years, I convinced myself that it was better that way. Jake was straight. He dated women, one after the other, usually with some messy ending, and he'd talk to me about them like I was his sounding board. I didn't mind, not really. I liked being close to him, even if he had no idea what I felt. Then one day, out of the blue, he called me. "Hey, I'm heading out on my uncle's sailboat this weekend," he said. "No plans, just the ocean and some beers. You in?" I paused. It wasn't unusual for Jake to invite me to stuff, but something about the idea of just the two of us, alone, surrounded by nothing but water, made my heart stumble. I said yes before I could think about it too hard. In the days leading up to the trip, I was a mess of nerves and daydreams. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Just a weekend. Just two friends hanging out like always. But there was this tiny hope curled inside my chest, whispering what if. Packing felt different. I folded my clothes carefully, chose my favorite hoodie, one I knew Jake always liked on me. I even bought a new bottle of cologne, which felt ridiculous, but I did it anyway. My mind played through every possible scenario, most of them unrealistic. I kept imagining moments, laughing together on the deck, Jake brushing my hand, maybe even saying something he'd been afraid to admit. When Saturday came, the weather was perfect. Clear skies, calm wind. Jake picked me up in his beat-up Jeep, grinning like a kid. Ready to leave the world behind for a bit? God, I was. More than he knew. The boat was small but cozy, just enough space for two people to sleep, eat, and sit under the stars. As we pushed off from the dock, Jake took the wheel, sunglasses on, wind in his hair, completely at ease. I sat beside him, trying to act like I wasn't memorizing every detail. The city slipped away behind us, and with every wave we passed, my heart felt a little lighter and heavier all at once. As the horizon stretched open, full of possibilities, I thought to myself, maybe this weekend will change everything. The first day out on the water felt like a dream I didn't know I'd been waiting for. The sea stretched out endlessly in all directions, calm and deep blue, the kind of quiet that makes your thoughts louder. There was something sacred about being out there, cut off from everything, just me and Jake and the rhythm of the waves. We fell into an easy routine. During the day, we sailed aimlessly, let the wind decide where we'd drift. At night, we'd drop anchor, cook simple meals on the little stove, drink whatever beer we had cold, and talk about nothing and everything. It reminded me of college nights, us sitting on the roof of our dorm, passing a bottle between us, pretending we had life all figured out. Jake laughed more than I'd heard in a long time. He told stories I hadn't heard before, about his childhood, his parents, how he once got lost in the woods behind his grandparents' cabin and cried until his brother found him. I listened, as I always had, but this time I let myself watch him a little longer, memorize the curve of his smile, the way his eyes crinkled when he was truly happy. On the second night, after we'd eaten and the stars had come out, Jake grew quiet. He sat at the edge of the boat, legs dangling over the side, beer in hand. "I've been feeling off lately," he said, voice low. "Burned out. Like I'm just going through the motions, you know." It caught me off guard. Jake never talked like that. He was the strong one, the fun one. I moved closer, sitting beside him, shoulder to shoulder. "Yeah," I said softly. "I know that feeling." He didn't say anything for a moment. Just stared out at the dark water, his face unreadable. I reached out, hesitated, then placed a hand on his shoulder. It was meant to be a gesture of comfort, simple and steady, but when he didn't pull away, I didn't either. My hand stayed there, warm against his skin, and something shifted in the air. He turned slightly, his eyes meeting mine. There was a flicker, something unspoken, something real. My heart pounded. I opened my mouth, ready to say it. To tell him. To ask. But then he looked away and gave a small laugh, shaking his head. "Man, Remember when we tried to build that DIY bar in our dorm and almost burned the place down? Just like that, the moment passed. He leaned back on his elbows, launching into the memory, and I followed along like I always did. But inside, I was aching with the words I hadn't spoken. Later that night, I stood alone at the bow of the boat, staring into the stars, their reflections shimmering across the water. Could he feel the same? Or was I just lost in a fantasy that was never real? The weather had been perfect, until it wasn't. On the third afternoon, clouds began rolling in from the horizon, darker and heavier than we expected. At first, we joked about it, but within an hour, the sky cracked open and the wind turned vicious. Rain lashed across the deck, and the boat rocked hard under our feet. "Jake!" I yelled over the roaring wind, trying to secure the sail. He was at the edge, tugging at a line, soaked to the bone. Then it happened. His foot slipped on the slick wood, and he stumbled, one leg over the side. For a second that felt like an eternity, I saw the panic in his eyes. Without thinking, I lunged forward and grabbed his arm, pulling with every ounce of strength I had. He collapsed into me, shaking, breathing hard. "Jesus!" he whispered, clinging to my shirt. That was close. We sat like that for a moment, the storm still thrashing around us, but all I could feel was the weight of him against me. My arms wrapped around his back instinctively, holding him tighter than I ever had before. And for that moment, the chaos faded. By nightfall, the storm passed, leaving us drenched, exhausted, and silent. We dried off, changed clothes, and opened a bottle of whiskey Jake had stashed. "For emergencies," he said with a tired smile. "Pretty sure this counts." The liquor warmed us, softened the edges. Jake leaned back against a pile of cushions, his head tilted lazily toward the stars now peeking through the clouds. I lay beside him, closer than I usually would, and he didn't move away. "You ever think about how weird it is," he said, voice low, "that people come and go, but some stay? Like, you've always been there." I looked at him. His eyes met mine, and this time, they didn't flick away. "I don't know what I'd do without you," he said. My chest tightened. The space between us felt suddenly electric, like if either of us breathed too loudly, something would snap. I leaned in, just slightly. His face was right there, eyes half-lidded, lips parted. The silence stretched. My heart thudded. Then, he pulled back. He laughed, too loud, too quickly. "Man, what are we doing?" he said, rubbing the back of his neck. "You're looking at me like I'm a damn Nicholas Sparks novel." I smiled weakly, trying to mask the hurt. Maybe I just liked the view. He chuckled again, shaking his head, and turned away to take another drink. But that moment, it stayed with me. The way his hand had brushed mine, the way his gaze lingered like he was about to say something more. Maybe he felt it too. Maybe he was scared. As I lay awake later, the gentle rocking of the boat beneath me, I couldn't stop thinking. Maybe this is real. Maybe I'm not imagining it. Back on land, everything felt different. The world felt louder, heavier, like I'd been underwater for days and was only now remembering how to breathe. Jake dropped me off at my apartment with a pat on the back and a casual, "We should do that again sometime," as if we hadn't shared something deeper out there on the water. I waited for the texts to come. A message. A call. Anything. But days passed, and all I got was silence. At first, I made excuses. He was busy. Probably catching up on work. Maybe he just needed space to figure things out. I replayed that night under the stars over and over in my head. His words, his eyes, that almost kiss. It had to mean something. It had to. But then a week later, I opened Instagram. There it was. A photo of Jake on one knee, holding a ring in his hand, smiling up at his longtime girlfriend. The caption read, "She said yes. Forever starts now." I stared at the screen, unable to move. Engaged. He was engaged. The post had gone up just hours before. My heart slammed against my ribs as the pieces fell into place. The boat trip, the confessions, the closeness, me, none of it had been real for him. It wasn't a beginning. It was an ending. A goodbye he never said out loud. He had used that weekend to sort through his doubts, to escape the pressure of commitment, and I had been part of the process. Just a mirror he held up to see himself more clearly. He hadn't been vulnerable with me, he'd just been trying to find his way back to her. I remembered every moment now with new eyes. The lingering touches, the long stares, the silence that spoke volumes. I had thought we were on the same page, walking a line neither of us had dared cross before. But he hadn't seen me that way at all. He had chosen her. And he hadn't even told me. I tried calling him. Once. No answer. I didn't try again. The betrayal wasn't loud. It was quiet and cruel, like waking from a dream you didn't know was a lie. How could I mean so much to him, and nothing at all? I wasn't angry at first. I was just empty, hollowed out by hope, grieving not just the love I thought I had, but the friendship I thought was real. Because even if he didn't love me, he knew. He had to know what that trip meant to me. And still, he let me believe, let me feel, let me fall. The days that followed blurred together in a haze of disbelief and heartbreak. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw him, on that boat, under those stars, whispering words that had felt like confessions. Words that, in hindsight, were nothing more than noise. I kept asking myself the same questions on repeat. Was I stupid? Did I imagine it all? How could I have read it so wrong? I felt like a fool, like I'd built an entire world on a look, a touch, a few half-formed words that were never meant to hold weight. And worse, I started to question my worth. Why wasn't I enough for someone to stay? Why was I only good for comfort but never love? I finally texted him. "Can we talk?" He didn't reply. So I tried calling one last time. He picked up. His voice was cool, detached, nothing like the man who had held me close just days ago. "Hey," he said. "I figured you'd reach out. Look, if this is about the trip, I think maybe you read into things a little too much." His words hit like a slap. A little too much. I echoed, my voice catching. Yeah, I was just in a weird headspace. I didn't mean to give you the wrong idea, man. I'm sorry if I did. That was it. No emotion. No acknowledgement of the nights, the closeness, the way he looked at me. He acted like I'd made the whole thing up in my head. Like I'd imagined the storm, the way he held on to me, the weight of those lingering stares. As if none of it had happened. I hung up. I didn't say goodbye. That night, I lay on my bed, scrolling through old photos on my phone, laughing selfies, late-night pizza runs, beach trips, birthdays. Moments that once felt warm now looked staged. I saw the manipulation clearly now. How he leaned in just enough to keep me close, but never enough to really choose me. I saw it all, finally. The trip wasn't special. It was convenient. I had been his safe space, his sounding board, someone to dump his fears on before running back to the life he'd already chosen. I spent hours deleting. Photo after photo. Messages. Voice notes. Memories that once made me smile now turned my stomach. I unfollowed him. Blocked him. Not out of pettiness, but for peace. That was when the grief really hit. Not just for the love I'd lost, but for the friendship I thought I could count on. 4 years, Jake had been a fixture in my life. And now, he was just gone. No closure. No apology. Just silence. I looked out the window, watching the night sky. Cloudy now, no stars. I thought we shared something honest. I was wrong. Healing didn't come quickly. There was no grand moment where I suddenly felt okay again. It came in small, quiet ways. In journaling the pain I couldn't say out loud, in long walks without music, in learning to sit with the ache instead of running from it. I started therapy, not because I was falling apart, but because I needed help putting the pieces back together. I told my therapist everything. About Jake. About the sailing trip. About how, for the first time, I thought someone might finally see me and choose me. And how wrong I'd been. She listened without judgment, then said something that stuck with me. Sometimes, people don't mean to hurt us. But that doesn't make the wound any less real. It was true. Deep down, I don't think Jake ever set out to break my heart. I think he was confused, scared, trying to sort out his own path without realizing he was stepping all over mine. He didn't see the damage because he never looked close enough to notice. And maybe that was the real betrayal. He didn't have to love me. But he could have been honest. He could have acknowledged the weight of our bond instead of erasing it like it was some passing illusion. It took me a long time to stop blaming myself. To realize I hadn't imagined the connection. I just valued it more. I gave my heart too freely, hoping it would be held with care. Instead, it was used as a mirror. That doesn't mean I'll stop loving deeply. But it does mean I'll protect my heart better next time. I'll look for signs of honesty, reciprocity, consistency. I won't chase after maybes disguised as almosts. And I'll forgive him. Not because he asked for it. Not because he deserves it. But because I deserve peace. Jake was a chapter, not the whole story. Now, when I think of that trip, it's not just pain I remember. It's the wind in my hair. The way the stars lit up the sea. The laughter over simple meals. The thrill of believing, even for a moment, that love might be closer than I thought. I don't regret feeling what I felt. I don't regret hoping. Love doesn't always look the way we expect. Sometimes, it comes to teach us what we need, before it leaves to make room for something truer. I don't know who's out there waiting for me. But I know this. Next time, I won't settle for being a mirror. I'll wait for someone who sees me, really sees me, and chooses me without hesitation. That trip taught me two things: what love could feel like, and how much it hurts when it's not returned.